be short and sweet because I am one of the panelists is my best friend. And I just want to speak on that there are plenty of ways that kids can have an influence. She's been one of my best friends since I was like 14, and it's her and it's my brother. And they are my go-to. They are my go-between for me when I need prayer. They're my go-to, my in-between when I need to have that conversation with God. And they both tell me, look, you don't have to talk to him how I talk to him. You don't have to use the words because you don't use them. Just say them from your heart and he will hear them. Yeah. So the influence that Jennifer has on me, it has not only rubbed off on, because like my family, we're more relationship versus religion. So we not in here Sunday and stuff like that. But I know to respect her schedules. I know to respect her time. But also, she's one of my go-to. I only have two. I actually went to an event recently, which is kind of crazy that we're here because I went to an event and it was very, I told her, I think I said it was very churchy or something. I said it made me feel uncomfortable. I felt like this. And she said, come to this event. You know, and then she said, I'm doing this, come to this. And when I heard youth, I was like, you know, I'm old, I'm 30, like I'm not part of the youth. But now I feel like it's speaking to me too. So it's like, it's ways to reach the youth outside of, because even my daughter, when she has questions about it, she'll be like, oh, can I ask Lock Twin, can I ask my uncle? I want to know this, I want to know why, and if I don't have the answers, I send them to her. So you can it can be positive, very, very, very positive influences, because that's what she's been on me. And it can be, you know, some of that little teaser.
I kind of have a question for the panel. I am a parent, and all of my children are grown. And I remember that they all came up in the church. They were in church sometimes from 8, got home at 12 at night, because we were on the public transportation. I took them to everything. Every out service we had to go to, they had to go. Now, they grew up. They became young adults. They became over the age of 18. Because see, when they were younger in my home, they didn't have a choice. Right. Because if you in my house, we going to church. So we at a point now with our young people that are, I'm gonna call them teen adults. They call their adults. And whether they're 18 to, I'm gonna say over 18. Now, they're at a point, they got to a point in their lives where they were making their own decisions. And I was in the church, in my same church, and I watched, we talked about the pastor, let's talk about the whole congregation. Because sometimes we are very judgmental. Our young people come into church because we used to come into church, and even with there's a way we talk to young people. You can talk to them in love, and then they will understand you better. But if you talking to them in a negative tone, or if you looking them up and down, and full in judgment on them, you will turn them away. Because I saw young people, including some of my own, listening to people that they've been up under and in the ministry, the evangelists and whomever it is in the church, some people, the lay members that are in the church, they kind of turn them away. Then you wonder why, after a little while, they disappear. You don't see them anymore. You know, sometimes they go to other churches, but they want to be comfortable, and they need us to understand them. And I'm speaking as a parent because I had 5 daughters and 1 son. And they know about Christ. Because every man got to work out his own. We can only instill in them, we can bring them to church, we can do those things. But I wanted to hear from the young people tonight about what it is that makes you turn away. What is making you don't want to come back to church? Or, you know, if we can get that open, we can pull a lot of more young people young adults back into the church, because we have been there, and we all know. I've listened to everybody, all of you, all this panel. You all have came up under God. You all know the Lord. But what about that person that's out here in the dark? They may have been introduced to Christ one time in their life, but they walked away. How do we get them back?
Can I answer that for you?
You sure can.
Because I'm going to tell you this. When I grew up in church just like everybody else. Pastor Razor, he helped groom me, right? I couldn't wait to go away to college because I said I ain't got to go to church no more. And my mother was trying to get me to stay at home. I said to myself, because I'm on my own schedule. I want to do what I want to do. She would call me, did you find a church? Did you find a church? Because it was still required, right? She paying the tuition, I got to do what she say. I'm like, me and my friends hanging out. The first thing I wanted to do was get away from church. But I'm going to tell you from a personal experience, when you experience a dark moment where you're afraid or your life is at stake, those seeds that were planted in you, you will remember when you heard those saints saying the blood of Jesus, because you know it's real then. And I'm going to tell you, you have to be put in a point where your faith is tried, where you get to know that God is real yourself. Because all other times I was just doing it like a robot. I was required to go to church. But God allowed me, and the Bible says all things work together for your good. He allowed me to be in tough situations where I had to call on him to ensure that I knew he was real. And everything that my mother had instilled in me, those seeds that were planted, they actually began to grow. And I said to myself, I got to go to church on Sunday. Yeah. Because I was put in a situation that I had to seek God for myself. So I'm going to encourage you as a parent, trust the seeds that were planted. Some flowers bloom later. So some flowers bloom later, and I know I'm a living testimony that I wanted to stray away from it. I did. But it was like an anchor in me that drew me back to Christ. God he created us. He know how to reach us.
So my story is going to be slightly different. I'm still trying to find my way back to the church itself. Do I still believe in God? Absolutely. Do I still pray? Absolutely. Have I found my way back to a home? Absolutely not. And so I'm going to tell people and I promise, and I'm going to tell y'all some real stories real fast. Be mindful of what you say. A lot of especially older black churches and a lot of older people are used to the children should be seen and not heard. And you get so used to that you forget they standing there and y'all run y'all mouths. And you don't realize that those kids are hearing everything that you say. I've been in church all my life and I heard the nastiness that these grown people were saying. And I'm just like, if you saying this and I'm seeing y'all in my house and y'all all kikiing, but then I'm hearing you say this, I shouldn't know the business of grown people, right? Let me tell you a story real quick. My sister was murdered in Chicago when I was 15 years old. And it's not just inside the church, right? We went to convocations, we went to everything. So I know all these people. I'm at a hairdresser getting my hair done, not on a Sunday, random Saturday. And I heard somebody that went to my church and said, it should have been me. Not knowing I was there. And you want me to go back to this church? I'm gonna think not. Yeah. Then, let me tell you about another story. And just being in different churches and watching grown men and older men looking at these young girls and thinking we don't see it and we don't feel it, but there's no accountability. Yeah. But you want me to feel safe. You want me to come back. I'm gonna think not. I can pray at home. I can agree with my friends who worship God. I don't need one to agree to be here. I can do this on my own. But you want me to feel safe and come back to the church, but I haven't seen anything different. I've visited different ones and I still see the same thing. So until I feel something different, I'm going to continue to do it my way. Because my thing is, again, like she said, relationship. I'm going to have to stand there by myself. Me plus this church ain't going to be standing there. So, and I feel like God knows my heart. He knows the things that I've been through. And it's not him that I'm running from. Yeah. It's the people that you send down here that you keep telling me is your home. I'm sorry. Like, you're going to have to help me. So when I'm praying, I'm just like, well, until you guide me to find me a church, I'm going to do it this way. Yeah. And I feel like God is all knowing. He
Yeah,
know.
he is.
So until you guide me into that place, like I found a church and it was working out for a while, no issues, but I wound up moving. It was a little too far. So now, I'm back in that stage. And like I said, my friend, she go to church every Sunday. Her church is a little too big for my taste. I do like to know the people I'm communing with.
Yeah.
So again, until I find that safe space, but it's not just about Sunday school. It ain't just about the choir singing. It's just like, I need to feel comfortable. I have children. I know what some of these people are like. I'm not going to put my child in the same situation that I was in.
Yeah.
If I can't feel safe, I'm not putting my children in that place. I'm not doing that to them. I don't want to give them something else to have to heal from.
Yeah, that's real talk.
Yeah, thank you guys for sharing. I do want to make sure we get to this last question. And I do want to move on because you touched on a lot of stuff that we're going to get to. I want to make sure we try to get in as much as possible. Denise?
So to piggyback off what Sister Fair said, well, for me, when I was a young adult, and the reason I left church, it was the desire, the temptation of everything to be grown. We want to be grown so bad. Ain't nobody gonna make me go to church. I'm not going. I ain't gotta wear a skirt. I'm not doing that. I ain't gotta get up early. I can stay out all night Saturday and party and don't have to get up on Sunday. I ain't doing it. So the thing that made me not come back, like took me away from church, I can do what I want to do.
Yeah.
You know, we say that sentence, the baddest statement in the world, the worst statement. I'm grown.
Yeah.
I'm grown, so I can do what I want to do. So that made me go away. But then my mom met Pastor Razor, and she made me go to church as a grown woman. And I'm gonna be transparent because there's kids in the room. I'm gonna be open. I used to go to church and I used to be like, but I've been out drinking all night. I just don't feel right. I don't care. You going?
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm like, but I don't feel right. I don't care. And I'm like, but you gonna make me? I'm grown, girl. If you don't get dressed, and the thing that and that's what make a lot of us leave the church. Like I'm dealing with that with my kids. They're grown. But if you come to my house on Saturday, I bet you're going to church. If I check your phone and you're in the area, I'm texting you. You better get to church. I don't care how old you are, because my mama made me do it. Because at the end of the day, like Karen said, you'll know. Like they were raised in the church as a little kid, you will feel bad. Some stuff you do when you out in the street, even when I was grown, I felt bad. Like I didn't want to come to church. Even though she made, I'm like, you really gonna make me do this? So after a while, guess what it did? I stopped going out on Saturday drinking. I stopped going out on Saturday, because she gonna make me go. So why go and be a fool up in church and you've been out partying? And they're gonna come back, and your kids gonna come back at their own time. Ain't nothing you can say. All you can do is continue to pray for them.
Yeah.
Continue to pray for them. That's all my mom did. Her and my grandma. You can pray for them and pray that they come back, and Lord, cover them in your blood. Because at the end of the day, they gonna use that statement. I'm grown. I'm gonna do what I want to do. So all you can do is just hope, pray for the best.
Yeah,
you know,
that's it.
Lord, keep them. Until their mind get right.
Yep.
Because once we get out there in the street with that grown statement, the devil uses us in every way possible. So now they out in the street doing the fool. You know, we out in the street doing the fool because we grown, right? So in their own time, they going to come back. But in the meantime, we just got to pray.
Yep. You
You pray for mine, I pray for yours, because they grown.
That's it.
We can't literally beat them and make them come. You know, I was just one of the ones. My mom, she real stern with her words. You know, so I just said that we get to that point and we use that statement that we're grown. So that carries a kind of a little weight, but it doesn't really mean nothing. But you know, we say that, and that's where a lot of us lose our way.
Yeah.
When we get 18, we say we're grown, and then we just leave the church because no one's making us. You know, so. And all we can do is just pray that they come back. And we hope it's in time that they're walking in and not being carried in. And that's the statement. And I'm just glad that my mom made me walk in instead of me being pushed into the church. And that's all we can do at this point. Once they get grown, pray for them. I hope they come back. And the seeds that was planted, it pop in their head. Because let me tell you something, drinking on Saturday night and coming to church on Sunday was not a good look. So some had to stop. and after a while, you just have to stop because you feel bad. You feel like a fool. You know what I'm saying? My mama doing this, and then I'm going to go up in there and embarrass her.
Yeah.
You know, so all those things it'll kick in.
Yeah.
It just and some take a little bit longer than others. That's all.
Yeah.
Yeah, you go ahead.
You know, the old church, I didn't grow up in the church. My mom sent us to Sunday school, and I saw her as an adult. I saw her pray when she had difficult times. But I did not grow up in church, so I didn't have those experiences that a lot of people have with being in church on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and that kind of stuff. Okay? I didn't have that type of experience. But my experience came because I saw my mom pray.
Yeah.
I saw her pray, right? When she got into hard time, when she had to take care of her health-failing mother, okay? And her siblings were not available on the days that she really needed them, like my brother's graduation or my graduation, and she needed her siblings to take responsibility of their mom, okay? Everybody's mom, right? They were not available, but she prayed and asked God to give her the strength, and that she would not have to ask them anymore, you know. But my experience with being saved came from my own testimony. And that's what I believe is going to bring people back into the church.
Yeah.
The real testimonies. I mean, you could tell lies, you could, you know, testify and test a lie, you know, but the real testimonies of people that's gone through real experiences in life, and then give that testimony, because you can feel a real testimony. You can feel it. It goes from my heart to your heart, okay? And my experience was when I would spend all my money on that last drop of drugs, okay? It wasn't marijuana neither, okay? And I didn't have no more money, and I'm dreaming about the drugs when I go to sleep. And I got on my knees that night. I didn't have no more money, but I got on my knees that night. And I said, God, I'm going to pray all night long. I'm going to stay on my knees. Because I don't have the experience that other people have. Yeah. But I knew about prayer. Yeah. Okay? And I prayed all night long. I got on my, and I talked to God for real. I mean, I don't know how to, oh Lord, I didn't know that then. I didn't know, I just knew what I knew. I just knew how to get on my knees and ask God for help. Because my soul was in need of some real help. Okay? I knew I had a problem. I had 2 children at the time. When I cussed at my own child, I called them something. I don't cuss at my children. I don't cuss. Those are words I do not use, okay? So when I saw myself cussing, I knew I had a problem. I don't cuss at my children. You know, they're precious, okay? But I saw that I had a problem when I cussed at one of them. And I don't know what they did. It was probably nothing. I don't know what it was. But I knew that I needed to talk to God. And God came to my rescue. You know, I think that's when I got saved, that night. Not in no church, but that night on my knees. But I did find me a real church. And I learned those big words and the little ones. And I learned those experiences and those Bible verses. And I thank God for them because they brought me through some more stuff. Okay? Those testimonies and those scriptures have brought me through a lot of stuff in my life. So I just thank God for it.
Man.
I would agree with that. I kind of grew up the same way. We were in church on Sunday. We wasn't all day. It was just Sunday. It wasn't like all through the week. But I learned to pray like seeing my mom pray. And mainly, I grew up praying like at night. That was the thing. But it became a routine. I wasn't really like praying how I should have been. I wasn't really talking to God. I was just reciting something. And so I had to learn as I got older, like, you don't have to pray when you need something. You don't have to pray when you're like struggling. You can wake up and pray and just be happy and just thank God, things like that. So again, I had to learn that from my mama. I mean, again, we went to church, but I mean, I was young and I wasn't really paying attention. And so yeah, a lot of that I had to learn from my mama. So
I wanted to just piggyback really fast off of what Karen said. I was like, church, every Sunday, every Tuesday, we have a Bible study. So once I was at school, I'm like, okay, well, I know I didn't have a chance to relax. I know that because my mom was going to be like, yeah, you got a church. Everybody's going to be like, you got a church. But I kind of felt where, okay, I got me a little breathing era. And I feel as though, like she said, you have to go through something in order for you really to be like, okay, let me get it back together. Let me draw it back to point A where this is where I need to be. I found me a church home, even though it wasn't my church home, but it was a church home that I needed to be, to vent, to do everything. I found the church home there, and I just felt like you just got to get yourself back on track. It's all about you actually going through something in order for it to draw you back in, to draw you back to want to be back in the church, to draw you back to want to be talking back to God, and to be really in tune with God. So I just wanted to add that point because I understand you there. I understand you.
I feel like the sister over there was saying, like, because I grew up in a ministry where I saw a lot of miracles happening. Like I seen people praying. Like I grew up under that type of ministry, so it was just like when you go away and you by yourself and you crying at night and you feel like you can't make it, it's like you are reminded back to those things that you saw when you were younger, and those, that just gives you the strength that you need, and you are never like fully stray away. You're gonna always come back because you know where your help come from.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to add that because that helps me a lot of times, because sometimes, everybody feel like, they can't make it sometimes, or they just don't want to. Like, you get up and you don't want to deal with nothing in your day at all. But when you think back to, just the prayers and the miracles and stuff like that, like, that's how you, stay grounded. Like, even if you do back up, like, you stay grounded that way. So.
I don't
Okay,
think.
I have, I do, before you get there, I do have a question though, because you all talking about coming back. How do you balance the reality of coming back versus not being able to get back or being brought back? And I'll say this, my son's a musician, and he's a great gospel musician, right? And he was playing with one group, and he calls me up, and the drummer in the group, he they were young, going out, boom, and he got gunned down the Saturday night, right? So he didn't make it back. Or one of the bass players that he played with from time to time, he also got gunned down. He didn't make it back. So how do you weigh this? Do you feel like, to me, and I'm a long way from being old, right? But I remember. I'm a long way from being young, and I'm not old, but I'm a long way from being young, right? But I remember most of you all not being in church all the time. But how do you weigh that? Because to me, I felt like it appears to me, and you all can help me on this, it appears to me as if you're playing Russian roulette. I may make it back, I may not. It just depends upon what chamber the bullet is in at any given moment. And I think it helped my children to stay in church, because they saw these people, and I didn't think much would affect Amber. But there was one of the kids that she grew up with on the block, and he got gunned down sitting in the car a few blocks over, right? And I knew it affected her because they played together. They grew up together. So to me, it sounds like that when you make those decisions, you're playing Russian roulette. Help me out here. I'm an old pastor. I'm an old guy right now. But it seems like you're playing Russian roulette, and depending on where that bullet is in the chamber, you're saying, okay, I'll just live with, I may not make it back.
So can I say this? For me, I believe there are a combination of things that make your child come back to Christ. Just like Denise was saying, her mother was praying for her. We oftentimes, we get these affirmations we send to each other through email and cell phone. God is not He's not required to affirm anything other than his word. And when I pray, just like the earth was created through words, when I pray to God, in my prayers, I'm saying what he promised me. And I can remember being in Sunday school, and that was something that teenagers talked about, like, my friend lived in the projects, this happened. And the Sunday school teacher told us the difference between two boys standing on the corner and one getting gunned down and the other one not is one is under the blood. And it is our responsibility as those who have come to Christ to pray for our children and the children that are affiliated with our church, our ministry, and our families, because nothing can penetrate the blood. And if we are in prayer, seeking God, asking him what it is that we need to know about our children, God will reveal it to you. He will tell you what to do. God knows everything. And we have to trust God at his word. God will not fail us. And it may sound so cliche, but it's real. God, he is only required to affirm his word. God promised me something about my child, and I'm expecting him to deliver. Whatever he doing, that's a distraction from the enemy. I am going to pray until I see what God promised me. And that's my job as a parent. And it's our job as a church to do the same thing. God made everybody with a purpose and an intent. When these children come to this church, it is our job to pray for them, to model for them what God wants them to be, to don't live a double life, don't backstab and talk about each other, and ultimately pray for them and keep them under the blood. Because they may not understand. I can remember being a young person, we would come to the altar, God, give me a mind to be saved. I still want to hang out, but just pray for me. I want God to protect me and cover me until he gives me a mind to be saved. So please don't take prayer for granted, because it is the most powerful thing that we have in the kingdom. Prayer.
So I think I'm just different. I feel like there's two different things, two different conversations happening. God is not the problem. God is not the problem in this equation. If we're talking about our kids straying away from God or they're straying away from the church, those can be two totally separate things. People don't have a problem with God. They're not taking, well, some people do, but most of the youth that are not taking issue with God. It's the people inside the church. And that's two totally different conversations that we need to have. People need to be accountable for the things they allow to come out of their mouth. People need to start being, if you're saying that you're Christ-like, then act like it. I'm not expecting people to be perfect, but there has to be some accountability when you step outside yourself. We can't keep going along as per usual, because usual is not working. Usual is not keeping these youth inside the church for them to get closer to God, because God ain't the issue. God is constant. He's not the one sitting up here talking about the kids when they come in here, or seeing a girl whose skirt was too short and then you got Mother Adelaide side-eyeing her. That's not the problem. That ain't the problem. The problem is with the people inside the church. So that's a totally different conversation that we need to have. It's not about, well, pray. Yeah, we can pray all day, but I don't necessarily want her to pray for me because I just saw her what she said 2 minutes ago. She ain't the person I want interceding on my behalf. Get you together, right? So those are two totally different conversations that we're having. And again, like I said, like, and even the comment like that you made, like with the Sunday school teacher, right? The blood, one kid was covered and the other one wasn't. That struck me wrong. I'm being honest, that struck me wrong, because here's the thing. A person can still be covered and still gunned down, right? Because you don't know what his plan was. So like, again, my sister, we was in church, and again, I was seen as the bad one, even though I didn't do nothing, but I was seen as the bad one, but she was still gunned down for no one, and I had to come to grips with that. I had to pray about that, because you don't have to make sense for this to me. That doesn't make sense to me, right? Like, she went to school, she went to Sunday school, she went to church, she didn't go outside, she wore the skirts. I was the one that wore pants. I didn't want to be in church. I hung out with all the boys. I was a tomboy. I was gay this week, so they say, right? Because I hung with the boys, right? But she got gunned down. So, but I'm still here though. And let everybody else tell, I ain't covered, but I'm still here and she not. So that ain't got nothing to do with it. It ain't my job to figure out why he allows certain things to happen. Maybe that was his lesson for me. Maybe he was like, okay, I'm gonna take her so you can get you together. Maybe that was the catapult, right? We don't know what the plans are. And that's the thing, like, the church really just, if a person comes to this church and you don't know this person, how can I help you? What do you need? You're here for a reason. What brought you here today? Because something been on that person's mind. If they didn't grow up in the church, something was on their mind that made them walk through these doors today. Go have a conversation, like, what's going on? How you doing? Why you here? Something brought you here. Tell me what that thing is. Sometimes people get so overwhelmed with what they got going on in life, they mean to be here, but outside life is pulling them. Sometimes they stressed out about money. As the church, how can we help? Maybe you need help with a resume. Maybe you need a job. So that way, let me alleviate this stress from you, so that way you can focus on this. The church needs to help and not just preach to me on Sunday. Like, what's keeping me from focusing on God? What's keeping me distracted from coming to the church? What are your issues? Right? Maybe that person, maybe God sent them here to fix the problem that you have in your church. Maybe that girl was raped and she wants to come back to the church. Maybe she can help identify the pedophiles that you have in church. Like, stop being so judgmental and let's fix the things that's wrong and actually ask people, like, why don't you want to come back to church? What was your experience? And let them tell you, and let them be honest, and not let's shush things under the rug. Because I'm sorry, as a black community and a black family, we always want to say, well, we can pray this away. We don't want to talk about mental health issues. We don't want to talk about the uncle that don't nobody want to let babysit. We don't want to talk about that, but you got to have those real conversations so people can feel safe. People have to feel safe in the church. I don't want to come to the altar and lay my burdens here when somebody gonna go whisper them to her at dinner. Like, how do you want me to allow you to pray for me and help me and intercede on my behalf if I don't feel trustworthy enough to tell you what's really going on with me? And that's a lot of the reason why people are leaving the church. Whether I don't want to share. I don't feel like this is a safe space, right? So can I come and actually talk to you and really tell you how I feel, and this conversation stay between me and you? Can that happen? Right? And then how do we grow from that? How do we build? How do we create programs to heal these areas, and why really young people, like I said, not straying away from God, straying away from the church? Because like I said, I can pray all day and I'll pray until I can't pray no more. But walk into somebody's church and feel like I can go to one of the elders and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this and I need help with this. I ain't been yet to do that.
So I don't want to cut you off. We hit a lot of key points as far as like judgment and no safe spaces, which we had on the list. I don't